Welcome back to A Closer Walk. I'm Irving Kimball, and I'm your facilitator through our Experiencing God series. Today we're on Unit 7, Day 2. That's page 138 in our member book and page 185 in our Youth Edition. We're going to be talking about an encounter with God requires faith. Our member verse is Hebrews 11:6, and I want to encourage you to take the memory verses and post them in a place where you can be reminded so that you can rehearse them over and over again until they're placed very deep in your heart. Today we're going to be talking about faith as the confidence of what God has promised and said will come to pass. You see, if God said it and promised it, then we have to believe that it will come to pass. Our faith ought to be in God's power, not in the wisdom of man. As Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, that he preached not because of the wisdom of man, but the power of God. Our faith ought not be in a situation or in an ability that we have. Our faith has to be in a person, and that person is God himself. See, faith is not coming up with a grand and clever idea and then asking God to bless your idea. Before you come up with that, you have to have the ability to trust God when he presents you with something that goes beyond your human abilities. And then another key point is before you ask yourself or your family or your church to believe or have faith in something, be sure that you've heard from God and supported by his word, because that's key, because what God has said, God will perform. And without a firm foundation of faith, you are sure to stumble. See, obedience indicates that we have faith in God. When we encounter a God-sized task, we often assume that we have to accomplish that task with our human abilities or with the resources that we have on hand right now. But our faith, when we encounter those God-sized issues, ought to be in God himself, because if he said it in his word, he will perform it. That's what our faith is, and that's where our faith lies. You see, when we think a situation or a task that God has given us is impossible, that's self-centered. See, when God speaks and what God speaks, God can do. When God speaks, it's when he wants us to do. What he purposes, he will bring to pass. So in summary, as we close out our time together today, I want you to remember that when God speaks, your response requires faith. The other thing I'd like to impress upon you is that faith is the confidence that what God has promised, he said he would do, will come to pass. And sight, walking by sight, is the opposite of walking by faith. If you have to see it, then that's not faith. Then number 4 is that faith is a person, not a thing. And our trust is in a person, and that's God himself. And then 5thly is before you call or tell yourself or your family or your church that they ought to exercise their faith in a specific area, be sure that you've heard from God through his word and through the Holy Spirit. And then number 6 is that when God lets you know what he wants you to do and what he wants to do through you, it will be something that only he can do. What you believe about God will determine what you will do. Until the next time, be blessed.